everybody, welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm coming at you with an interesting video. Today I want to talk about action cameras, and more specifically, for those of you who don't quite understand where I'm coming from, I'm talking about cameras that you can mount to your head, cameras that you can mount to the handlebars on a bicycle, cameras that you can put on your surfboard, go underwater, go rock climbing, jump out of airplanes. Those type of cameras, rappelling, all those things that a normal camcorder, such as the one that I'm using right now to film me, cameras that can do things that this one that I'm pointing at right now can't. So for a long time I was sitting there thinking about GoPro. That's the household name, right? GoPro, action cameras. Man, I gotta get one of those. And then I stumbled across this other company called Ion, and I thought, man, that's pretty cool too. And so for a little while I was talking to Miss Jiu-Jitsu 2000, and we had some discussions and pros and cons about GoPro versus Ion. And to make the long story short, this is what we chose: the Ion HD Sports Video Camera. I'm going to unbox this thing for you today, but before I do that, I want to talk briefly about why we chose this one. For a GoPro, and more specifically for underwater type filming, a GoPro is a very nice camera, but to go underwater with it you have to buy a housing, and you have to put the camera in this housing. It gets a little more cumbersome, and the expense, the added expense of buying this housing, it just, to me, it didn't all add up. To me it seemed like I gotta pay so much money to get something that this will do right out of the package. So for Christmas we waited until they had those Black Friday deals, and I think we picked this up for 99 bucks. Again, this is the Ion Air Pro Wi-Fi model. It's really cool. I'm very glad that we chose this over the GoPro. There's a lot of things that I've already done with it, and I've already filmed quite a bit of footage. Nothing that I've put on YouTube yet, but I've been out playing around with it, trying to learn it, get to know it, and I am happy, very happy. So let me stop rambling and let me start unboxing. Hang with me, guys. Okay, here's a quick view of the front of the package. There's the side of the package where it talks about the Wi-Fi pods, talks about the one-click system, how you can hook it to your surfboard and your helmet, talks about different mounting systems, things of that nature. And on the back of the box you can see that there's a lot of specs. Talks about the different specs that the camera offers, and one thing that was important to me was full HD 1080p. It's pretty cool. I really like that. Let's talk about this. Again, you're shooting true HD. It's got a 170-degree angle view, up to 30 feet, waterproof. It's got the Wi-Fi on board. It's only 4.7 ounces in weight. It's ready to upload to the cloud. You can take pictures in still mode. The battery life is about 2.5 hours if you're not using the Wi-Fi module. Here's another view of the bottom of the package. Big warning label. It says watch out, there's a security device inside. That's so the people can't shoplift it. Pretty cool. Very nice. Let me open it up. You can see obviously I've already got dog hair in there because I've had it open. But those two stickers, those stickers came off of the pods. First thing that I notice when I open it up is it comes with a very nice, very heavy duty solid bike mount. Okay, it's got a 1/4 thread, and this threads into the bottom of the camera. You can thread this onto a lot of standard cameras, including your digital camera, your current camcorder that you have, but this will mount to the handlebars of a bike or a motorcycle. They give you different size rubber grommets in there depending on the diameter of the pipe or bar that you're going to connect this to. You can connect it to a stick, a shovel. I mean, there are a ton of options for connections for this. You can also unscrew this, and it comes apart so that you could easily pull this ball out, and it rotates around. I'm not going to take it apart right now, but that ball comes out of the socket if you wanted to take your camera off, but I would just unthread it. It has a nice piece of rubber right here that sets up against the bottom of the camera, so you get a nice tight fit. Holds that thing very stable. Pretty cool mount. Comes with the camera. Next thing I want to show you is the camera itself. I'm not going to go into detail yet. On the back you can see that it has the Wi-Fi module installed. The top of the camera you have a nice slide switch with the rubber fill to it. This is the power button. Again, this is the AirPro first generation Ion. Their current model I think is generation 3. It's AirPro 3 or something. But man, I'm telling you, this thing, I'm blown away with it. Has a nice glass cover over the lens. There's 6 screws around the front. Now don't quote me on this, but I believe that if you scratch that lens you could pull those screws and replace that glass. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks pretty obvious to me. On the bottom you have a small lanyard hole. This is where you can attach your cordage. So suppose this is mounted, say this is mounted to your helmet or something, and something happens and it breaks and the camera falls off, this lanyard would stay connected to whatever you had it connected to. So this is it. It's a nice aluminum housing, barrel design, very nice built, well built camera. It's not very heavy. Again, the battery life is about 2.5 hours on normal mode, and if you're using the Wi-Fi they say it's about an hour. So let me take this plastic out, set that aside. Inside the box you can see that there is a small connector, and what this does is this threads up into the bottom of the camera. It goes like this. Tighten that baby in, and there's a corresponding type bracket that fits on a lot of helmets. This will slide right into place, and you can see these little arms, these little lips right here, these little guys right here. What will happen is you'll slide this in and it'll bend and it'll flex and they'll lock into place. Very positive mounting system, and this comes in the box. I don't have anything to use that at this point, so I'll just set that aside, but I just thought I'd show you. Right here you can see the standard cap. This does not have any Wi-Fi or anything in it. It's just a standard cap. Comes with that. Comes with a small USB, and it's the same type of plug that my phone has, that my smartphone has. Same type of plug. Very small, but nonetheless you can use that to charge the camera or to connect it to a computer. Inside there's a small sticker. It says Ion on it. And now we have the owner's manual, quick start guide, talks a little bit about some of the stuff that's in the box. I'm just kind of holding it open, so if you want to pause you can read. Hopefully I'm holding it good where you can pause and read if you want to. It's only about 12 pages in English. This page talks about setting up the Wi-Fi pod, which is really cool. Sealing your camera to prevent water damage. And right here, these are some of the specs on the camera. Again, feel free to pause if you need to. And that's pretty much the last page that's in English. Then we start into Spanish. So there's the user's guide. This is a little warranty card, kind of a fold out. It's written in English and Spanish. I haven't even read that yet, to be honest with you. I know they have a 1-year warranty. Here is the iCloud, which with the Wi-Fi module you can connect to the internet if you need to. This is a card for a 6-month digital membership, and that's about it that's in the box. Okay, let's talk about charging this camera. First thing you want to do is you want to push this little lock button up, and you see these 2 dots that are lined up. You want to turn it counterclockwise just a little bit and it'll unlock from the barrel, and you can just kind of wiggle it with your fingers. And what we're doing is we're basically taking out the Wi-Fi module. We'll set that aside for a second. Right here on the back of the camera you can see that there's a reset button. This is where your charger plugs in, and again, I've used my charger that comes with my cell phone. It works fine. There's an HDMI port. There is your micro SD card slot. It does not come with a card. I purchased a 32 gig card, and the information on this camera says that if you have a 32 gig SD card that you can get 4 hours of footage at 1080. So with a battery life of 2.5, I'm never going to run out of storage. This right here is an audio port. This is where you would put in a microphone, and then you have the option between full HD and just standard HD. Full HD records at 1080 at 30 frames a second, and the HD records at 720, and you can choose between 60 frames or 30 frames. So I keep it on the full HD at 1080 at 30 frames. Now, to plug in to the charger, you would basically plug this into the camera right here like so. Plug this into a computer running Windows, making sure that the power is off on the camera, and this little light will illuminate to red. It'll turn red, and then once the camera is fully charged, that red light will go out and it'll be dim just like it is right now. You can also plug this USB port into your electrical outlet just like you do on your cell phones, and it'll charge the camera the same way doing that. When you first purchase this camera, again, it does not have a micro SD card in it. So when you turn the power on, your little light here will fluctuate between red and green. That's telling you that there is not a card installed. So this is what that looks like. If I pull that down for a few seconds to power it on, you see how that LED indicator cycles between red and green? That is the indicator that you'll get when there's no memory present. If you do have a memory card in there, but it's full, this thing will do a color combination of green, but it'll flash just green. So I'm going to power this off, and I'm going to put my SD card back in there. So now when I push the power button and hold it down, it vibrates and it goes to green. There's two ways to record, and the first way is to slide this switch forward. The camera does a small vibration. This light will turn red, and from that point we are currently filming. Right now we're filming as we speak. When you're finished filming, you can run the slide switch back down and it'll vibrate again twice, and then it turns green. If you run out of space and you fill your SD card, the green light will flash. I might have mentioned that earlier. If you want to take a still photograph, just push this button. It vibrates and you see the green LED flicker. I've just taken 2 photos. Another feature that I like about this camera is you do not have to have the camera turned on to film. Right now the camera is off, the LED's off, but let's say I had this in my pocket and I see some elk running around across the street or something. I can push this forward, I hear a vibration, the light flickers, and now I'm recording. It takes a couple of seconds, no problem. When I'm done, I stop the recording, it vibrates twice, and now I can power down. When you're recording, one thing that I like about this camera is it saves the file as an MPEG-4 file, and it compresses it to the H.264 compression standard. And that's really cool. Another thing that I like is every time I film a video, it saves it as two files. There's one that's full HD, and the other one is basically a rendered down version of the same exact file that I filmed. So for every file that I film, it saves two files. The reason they do that is because the second one, the lighter duty one, the smaller one, is they do that so that could be readily available to be uploaded to Facebook, maybe YouTube, Twitter, things of that nature. Another thing that I like about this is, suppose you're going to sit there and record, right? I push the button, it vibrates, and let's say I'm just sitting the camera there and it's going to record. That camera will record until either the memory's full or the battery dies. And the cool thing about that is when I get finished and I pull the footage off of the camera, it is one file. Okay, again, it's two files, but it's one of each, but it's the same recording, one file. The camera that I'm using right now to film this video, if I do anything that's over 12.5 minutes long, it will start another file. So they're only 12.5 minutes. Then I have to piece them together to make the one video. This camera doesn't do that. It'll keep recording until, again, like the battery's dead or it's out of space. It's a really cool feature. Sometimes you'll be in the middle of filming and you'll be looking at your red LED indicator right here by my thumb, and it'll start flashing red. When that happens, the camera is telling you that the battery is about to die. So be aware of that. Another way that Ion will tell you that the camera battery is about to die is when you go to power the camera on, this LED light will flicker and it will go out. That's another way that they're telling you that the battery is dead. I'm going to take a little time right now with you and go through some of the specs on the camera. It's a 5 megapixel camera, 170 degree angle field of view. You can have all these video settings that I mentioned earlier about the 1080p at 30 frames. This talks about the video quality. Again, it's H.264 compression, dual video files for easy sharing that I talked about earlier. The resolution of the 5 megapixel camera, but if you shoot in single mode, you can actually change the setting to 16 megapixels. The quality in the microphone is good. I haven't found the microphone yet. I've looked all around the camera and I do not know where it is, but the audio turns out pretty well. Storage, again, you can go up to 32 gigs, and when you have a 32 gig card, they say you can get up to 4 hours of footage on, and that's at 1080p at 30 frames. USB 2.0 for data and battery charging. HDMI, audio video composite, 1200 milliamp hour rechargeable lithium polymer battery. Again, 2.5 hour battery life, or a 1 hour if you're using the Wi-Fi. And again, this is a really nice construction, aluminum barrel that I talked about. This is a great camera. The dimensions, 40 millimeter by 40 millimeter by 108 millimeter, weighs 4.5 ounces, and with the Wi-Fi 4.7 ounces. Pretty cool little camera. So a lot of people are asking about the watertight integrity of the camera. Like I mentioned earlier, for a GoPro to be underwater, you have to buy a housing that the whole camera fits in, and you do not have to do that with the Ion. Even with the Wi-Fi pod. This Wi-Fi pod is waterproof. There is a rubber gasket you can see right around the edge. You see me kind of pushing on it there. That rubber gasket, you want to make sure that everything is clear and that rubber gasket doesn't have any sand, any hair, anything like that on it before you seal it against the back of this camera. Around the back you can see this very thin, very small ring that's raised around the back edge. That's the edge that meets with the rubber gasket. So if you ever take that thing off and you notice any wear and tear on this ring, don't trust this thing to be watertight. Okay, so again, to insert the pod correctly, you take the Wi-Fi pod or the standard pod, push this in, you'll push it there. These dots are not lined up, so I have to turn it until they line up, and then don't forget to lock this pod by pushing this downward. Okay.